If a video is worth 10,000 words, here's all I need to say. Hey guys, Josh with the Update Channel, and in this video, we got a Kenmex truck with a C15 in it. So what's going on with this little truck? It's got a big problem. What is it? Let me show you. So we immediately got the truck in the shop, and we need to pull the air filter because we're going to be pulling the valve covers to see what the heck's going on. Now, generally when I've seen this or heard this before, and there's the Kenmex and we'll get on the other side, it's usually a rocker arm or valve train problem. And what's happening is the intake or exhaust gases are blowing into the intake port, which is causing that weird popping sound. But you should not run it like this because you potentially get a drop valve or valve damage. And hopefully all it is a rocker arm. Now in general, I like the trucks that have the air filters on the outside. This one does not. You can see this is missing most of the mount bolts for the air filter here. And also, this has an air filter restrictor gauge line that's not hooked up. If this breaks, please don't leave it like this because it's going to suck small amounts of unfiltered air into your intake. So I need to get the air filter off here to get the valve covers off, and then we'll be looking at what potentially is causing it. So why did I say a rocker arm? Well, a lot of times this is an exhaust rocker arm. So what happens is the rocker arm's not opening or not opening fully, and the cylinder fires, builds compression, but then when it's supposed to expel the exhaust gases, instead of doing that, they stay in the cylinder. Then the intake valve's open, and all that pressure goes into the intake. That can cause the popping noise. Of course, it could be cam damage, could be a problem with the valve seat on the intake or exhaust side. So I'm just going from experience as to what potentially it could be and what we'll be looking for. A lot of times I'll wash these engines off, especially this valve cover area in the wash bay, because you can see like the valve cover's got a bit of dirt on them. These aren't the worst I've ever seen, although number 3 valve cover is pretty dirty. Luckily most of it's on top of the valve covers, not between them, but I did not want to run this thing at all. I did run it to drive it in the shop though, but it, like I said, it drove in. So what we're looking for is any weirdness with the rocker arms or valve train, valve bridges, camshaft, and looking at the rollers first. You can see our Jake/VVA housings here. Don't see anything on 1 or 2. 3, 4 is, oh, there's something. That might be it. So look at the roller here. You can see there's little flakes missing, little chunks. You might be saying, well, that just looks like oil. Oil generally won't stick in big splotches on the rollers, so that means there's a cavity there most likely. And just like your teeth, cavities are bad. So we're going to be pulling this overhead off and seeing what extent of the damage there is. We already see that. So that one was number 4 exhaust rocker arm, which I said a lot of times it's an exhaust rocker. A lot of times I've seen the rockers actually crack or break off. I've seen the adjuster nuts back off. You can see the bridge get damaged usually, but generally the bridges do not get damaged. They're surprisingly robust for what they are. So first thing on these Assert C15s is pulling the VVA/ Jake housings, and I'm going to be using a Milwaukee 3/8 impact. Generally that's what I use, except for the rocker arm bolts. I actually just got this 3/8 Milwaukee low profile or right angle impact. This is not sponsored. They did not give me these tools or pay me to talk about them. I just bought this because it'd be cool, usually for fan bolts, it seems like, or anything where you can't really get into tight spots. I'm not sure how hard it hits yet. You can see it's pretty new. So these are 3/8 bolts, 9/16 headed bolt. Well, they're actually nuts, but when you're pulling these, and it's not a ratchet, it's an impact. And this coolant hose is always in the way. Seems to be taking them off pretty easy. It's rated something like 200 foot-pounds. My other Milwaukee 3/8 there would hit pretty hard to take them off pretty easy. So let's see. Hey, it'll take these nuts off, which these are 1/2-inch nuts or 3/4 headed nuts, so they're pretty tight. It does hammer on them quite a bit though. It does take them off though. I think I'm not going to be using this tool for really heavy duty nuts like these 3/4 ones. I'll probably use my other impact or a breaker bar ratchet. On the bolts for the rockers themselves, I usually break those loose with a long-handled 1/2-inch ratchet, and then I'll zip them out, which I'll be showing that in a little bit. I just wanted to do this experiment. I do like the tool, though. I'll actually put if you guys want to get it, they are the batteries. I get the aftermarket batteries also. They are like 1/4 of the price of the Milwaukee ones. Those are a pretty good deal. I'll put a link in the description and in the comment section here. But what we're doing here is pulling the VVA housings, because obviously you have to do that to pull the rockers off. And I always tip them up like this so the oil can drain back in the engine, because this makes a big, disgusting mess. So what I've got is, I've actually got a little parts tray made by Eastwood that I generally put parts on next to me. And then when I get a group, like all 3 of the VVA housings, I'll go put them on a table. I'll talk about that later, but... So now we got a better look at the rockers. Not seeing any broken ones. Still suspecting that number 4 on the exhaust rocker there, which is the one on the right. But don't really see anything too destroyed yet. So in this destruction of the week, we have a submission from Randy, and this is an EMD 2-stroke diesel engine turbocharger. You might be saying, that looks really weird. Well, yes, it's actually a gear-driven turbocharger.
Abandoned reason for madness.
So what happened was they were load testing it, and it exploded, and these cost about $60,000. No one was hurt, luckily. It did explode. You can see the housing's completely destroyed here. Very interesting design, a gear-driven, but it has a ratchet mechanism, so it'll actually go to a normal turbocharger when it spools up. Thanks for Randy. So that was an interesting destruction of the week there. Wish I had more pictures of it, but hey, neat nonetheless. So I already broke these 3 bolts loose that are holding the rocker arms down with that 1/2-inch ratchet I was showing you there. I generally don't like to just impact them off. It unevenly loads that rocker arm shaft there. You can see the rocker arms pop up. If you break it loose about 2 full turns with a ratchet first, you're going to unload those bolts evenly and potentially do less damage to the valves or the rocker arms. So that's generally how I do it, even though it takes a little bit longer. So you're going to pull your bolts out, and I always tell people, grab these like you're grabbing a lobster's claws, like you don't want them to pinch you. That's the best way. If you try to grab the rocker arm shaft or use the special tool Cat has for it, I found that tool kind of sucks in my opinion. But just grab them like this. I've always had good luck doing that, and it helps when you go to reinstall them also. So we've got all the rockers off. Let's look at the camshaft. Now these are the bridges, which is I was talking about. They're very simple. We're just looking at the valve heads there, or the stems. There's the heads are actually inside. You won't see them, but the cam is damaged here. Kind of hard to see at this angle, but pretty deep ridges. That number 4 rocker arm is definitely damaged the camshaft here, which is unfortunate. If this had been brought in earlier, potentially this cam might not have been damaged. But let's see what the rocker arm looks like. And what the heck, why was it doing that? Popping, because that amount of cam damage is not going to cause that. This is the tray I was talking about earlier. I should have taken a better picture of it, but on the left is what it looks like new. It holds 100 pounds. I use it for the VVA housings. I'll put all the injectors on it also, the rocker arms. That way I'm not getting up and down every time I have one injector or one rocker arm. It works pretty good. And here are our rocker arms. So that's the number 4 exhaust. You can see, yeah, it's definitely chunked out there. It's completely damaged. That's why it's popping. You can see how much movement it has there. It's like 3/8 of an inch. Bottom section of the metal of the housing of the rocker arm was broken off there. So what's happening is the rocker arm is not fully opening, so you're retaining some of your exhaust pressure in the cylinder. That's why when the intake valve's open, it pops. So why are we pulling the injector if we already found the source of the problem? Well, we don't know if the valves have been damaged. Now, by doing this, you still won't know if there is potentially valve damage, but what we're going to do is we're going to remove this injector, then we're going to air up the cylinder with shop air at 120 psi. see if the cylinder holds air. If it does not, that means either the valve or the valve seat is damaged and the head will need to be removed. If it does hold air, so what I'm going to do here is I do this test all the time. It's hard to tell though in a video. So what I do is I hold it, it's a rubber tipped air nozzle, against the injector tip bore, fill it with air, then hold it without filling it with air for about 10 seconds. Then I release the pressure slowly and see if it pops. So if it pops, that means it's holding pressure just fine. And generally, that means that the cylinder is in good condition. So we're going to say the cylinder is in good condition, that the valves are in okay condition, and all it needs is a camshaft and rocker arms. And did the cam and rocker arms fix it? Sure did. No more popping. So, sorry I didn't film all the repair part, but troubleshooting is what I find the most interesting. Thanks for watching.